Big question. How to be yourself when you're leading a group and bringing them together. Being yourself, that authenticity, that confidence, it makes other people feel safe. It helps them relax into your session. And so it's so important to be intentional about developing this ability to be ourselves, to be authentic, and to really evoke and exude psychological safety in our group. The first tip I have for you is getting into a parasympathetic state. So there's different physiological states our body can exist in, and they relate to the nervous system, specifically the autonomic nervous system. Yes, I'm a party scientist. The stress or fight response, fight or flight response, is the sympathetic physiological state. We want to get into a parasympathetic state, or a rest and digest state. In other words, you're relaxed, you're calm, your heart rate is lowered. And the way to get into this state, we can use somatic practices or cognitive practices. Cognitive practices, we can change our thought landscape to put us into a state of relaxation and confidence. The second one is somatic practices, where we can practice slowing down our respiration, specifically the exhalation. You can slow down your exhalation to really relax. Other things, you can lie down on the ground, you can stretch, you can go upside down, hang upside down. That works for me sometimes. You can jump on a mini trampoline. There's a few other somatic practices that I've done. All right, number 2 is you gotta take the pressure off yourself. The key word here is self. So when we blame ourselves, we are putting pressure on ourselves, okay? So this pattern of blaming ourselves all the time, that puts a lot of pressure on ourselves, and then we don't perform as we'd like to because we're putting so much pressure on ourselves. The reframe here is that there's so many things that are out of your control. Even the thoughts that come into your head, the feelings that arise in your body, none of that is chosen by you. These feelings, these thoughts, other people's behaviors, they emerge, and there's no way to know when they're going to emerge. And so when we reframe the self, when we figure it out that we can't actually blame ourselves for messing up on a microphone, for making someone uncomfortable in our session, when we can't blame ourselves because the self is just always changing, there's always new thoughts, new feelings emerging, completely out of our control, it can help us relax more and surrender, this spiritual term called surrender, to what emerges in the moment. To sum all that up, when we give up this sense of control, this sense of, oh my gosh, everything is my fault, that's when we can be more ourselves in front of a group. Number 3, simply planning. The paradox is this: when you plan your session enough, when you plan your connection activities enough, then you can be totally unrehearsed when you actually bring people together. So the more planning you do, the more you can be unrehearsed, authentic, and lighthearted when you lead your session. My final tip is about failure. When we reframe failure, okay, reframing failure as not a result of us, but a result of mysterious forces and circumstances. Now, of course, it's important to reflect on why you failed and preventing that failure to happen again. It's also important to realize that when we do fail, it's a very unpredictable experience. We're going to fail sometimes when we do everything right. And so failure, I have two reframes for failure. The first is that failure is illustrating that you're going outside your comfort zone and trying new things. So that's a win. If you're not failing, that means you're just playing in your comfort zone and you're not actually taking any risks. The second reframe is that you don't control when you fail or not. Of course, you can plan, you can do your public speaking training, you can have a database of connection activities like I do, and you can still fail. It's out of your control. There's been events where I've failed. I rehearsed everything. I was so confident that it'd work. And then my microphone didn't work and the group was too intoxicated to participate. Totally out of my control. Totally out of my control. And I beat myself up for it, right? Because I think I'm the best I want to be the best facilitator ever. And so when I do fail, it hurts. But that failure was totally out of my control. So to sum it up, we talked about four things. We talked about the parasympathetic state. We talked about taking the pressure off ourselves. We explored planning so that you can be fully unrehearsed. Then finally, we talked about reframing failure. When we reframe failure cognitively, we can take the more pressure off ourselves and blame ourselves less. And if you're on this journey as well of mastering community building and bringing humans together, creating connection experiences, join me in my laboratory below in the description. It's free and it's where I send all my best tips and hacks on community building, creating authentic, healthy connection through the world.